For the most part, if you were enslaved, you did not have access to a formal education, right? So it was prohibited, mostly for the purposes of keeping the population controlled, right? So education was seen as a pathway to freedom and liberty. And so certainly as these people had no freedom and they were being denied their liberties, education went along with that. When you hear about education, African American education, you'll hear people talk about learning how to read. So there were thousands of enslaved Africans who taught themselves how to read. There was a very informal educational process that's important to be connected to. So in terms of the formal piece, one of the earliest institutions when we talk about African Americans and getting an education in college, people tend to talk about Oberlin College, which was founded in 1833. And when it was founded, it immediately was accepting free blacks and women. They accepted African heritage people. They were not built for African heritage people. The first college that we would consider HBCU would be Cheney University, which was 1837. It was founded in Philadelphia, followed by Lincoln University, which was named after Abraham Lincoln. And so these were institutions where the overwhelming majority of Africans who were educated in the United States, they went to those schools. But certainly there are Africans who in the 1800s received their degrees from Harvard University. In fact, there was resistance to that. If you read any books about integration, and particularly at the college level, but certainly K through 12 as well, what you'll see is some people becoming physical, spitting on people who were trying to come into the building, attacking people in the hallways, challenging your right to be in a college environment, right? So very physical outward displays of disdain were clearly there. The struggles that African heritage people deal with today in higher education are connected to the history as well. When you think about obstacles, though, I tend to think about something that most people would think is connected to class. In the United States, African heritage people are more likely to be poor than European heritage people. And there is a connection between class and educational attainment in the United States. And so even though race and class are not married, they're often engaged. To be an African heritage person does not mean that you're going to be poor, but it's more likely that you will be. Right? And so any of the obstacles that poor college students face, students of color disproportionately are impacted by those things.
I think that education is supposed to be something that is free for all. Why should there be a cost associated with you learning? Education is meant to be something for young people to go to school and to aspire to be a part of future careers, but when it's so expensive to do so, it makes it as if education is a privilege as opposed to being a priority. And when you create that type of atmosphere for young adults, it makes it very difficult for people who are on the poorer spectrum to want to strive to be CEOs, to want to strive to be in these higher skilled positions and higher heights in their life, because they can't even find those pretty pennies in order to be educated. I definitely think that it's unfair that it is so expensive to go to college, and it really does set a tone and change the bracket of the people who are educated. And that's kind of how the system began in a sense as well. You know, education was originally only created for the privileged, for white people. People of color weren't even educated at all, not even because there was an expense, but because they weren't deemed worthy enough to attend universities and to attend colleges. So when you make it so expensive, it makes it seem as if people who are poor are also not worthy enough to have an education because they don't have the money to make it happen. It's already hard to excel and to focus on your grades and to just do those things. You can't focus on just academically achieving when you have so many financial disadvantages that you're worrying about. If you have a hold on your account, you can't even register for classes. Maybe mom or dad didn't get paid at the right time or didn't get paid the amount that they thought that they were. And it just creates a trickling effect of stress, sometimes even depression, and a lot more difficulty for students in general.
Well, the EOP program, the Educational Opportunities Program, started in 1966 as a result of a civil rights initiative. CUNY back then was not diverse, and so the Black and Puerto Rican caucus members, along with some educators like Dr. Alan Ballard, decided that they wanted to change that reality. For students who aren't admitted EOP, we have the TRIO program here, which is here known as Project Excel. It's a student support services program. And then there's the C-STEP program, the Collegiate Science Technology Entry Program. That's also under our umbrella. And that could be for both EOP and non-EOP students who are pursuing careers in the science, STEM fields, and licensed professions.
I am an EOP student. EOP has helped me tremendously, even in the minimal ways. I got a 4.0 my first semester in college, right? And that's something that a lot of people didn't think that I could achieve. Even I didn't think I could have achieved that, and I did. And I really, really do owe it to EOP and the amount of support that I received. We are shifting the culture and changing the narrative of what it means to be successful. Just because you come from a background of people who weren't previously, financially stable, they didn't really have the means to make it, doesn't mean that you can't do the same. And every single day I think to myself, thank you so much to all of the people who have invested in me, all of the programs that have invested in me, because I probably wouldn't be where I was without them.
The wealthier you are in the United States, the more likely you are to be able to get a good education in the United States. That's not what we want. We want people to be able to get a quality education regardless of how wealthy or poor they are. That's what we want in the United States. But that's not what the situation is. If you could take class out of the educational picture, you'll be actually improving the environment for all people. I'm the first member of my family to be in the United States to get a college education. I'm a descendant of enslaved Africans. My great-grandparents, my grandparents, and my parents, none of them went to college, and none of my other family relatives went to college before I did. But the moment I was able to go to college, I was able to take vital information to my family that enabled other members of my family to go to college.
Education, to me, is not a privilege. It's a right. Everyone should have a chance at the American dream, and that includes getting oneself credentialed. Because in this world, people are looking for that degree. Equal access to an education is critical so that you can go on and get a job that makes you independent.
I think that having all of these programs that are catered towards the success of people from low socioeconomic backgrounds really do develop a new culture. Leading onwards to the future, when all of us get into our careers, we're gonna shift the culture of this country. Because rather than being a country that is solely based on people who have the financial means to be successful, you have a lot of people who have come from understanding that those financial difficulties can create a lot of barriers in the rest of your life. So when those people get to their successful positions, they can change how they consider people for jobs, how they consider legislation regarding education, regarding housing, regarding food insecurity, and all of the things that affect people who are in poverty because they have lived through it.